My wife, 32F, and I, 34M, have been married for 5 years. Things were great at first. We traveled, enjoyed our careers, and had what I thought was a solid relationship. About a year ago, things started to change. Maria became distant, always too tired or not in the mood for intimacy. I figured it was just a phase, maybe work stress or depression. I tried to be understanding, suggested therapy, both couples and individual, but she kept making excuses. Our bedroom essentially went dead. The last time we were intimate was exactly 13 months ago. Yes, I remember the date because it was our anniversary. Since then, nothing. Not even close calls or makeout sessions. At first, I was frustrated but tried to be patient. Maybe this is what happens in long-term relationships. Maybe it's just a rough patch. 3 weeks ago, Maria announced she was pregnant. 8 weeks along, according to her. My mind went completely blank. I remember standing in our kitchen, staring at her while she showed me the positive test. A smile on her face like this was the happiest news. Like I was supposed to be overjoyed. But we haven't. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Oh, don't you remember? That night after Jake and Melissa's dinner party? You had a lot to drink, she said, looking nervous but maintaining eye contact. Here's the thing. I remember that night perfectly. I had 2 beers over a 4-hour dinner because I was driving. We came home, watched half an episode of that new drama series, and went to sleep in separate rooms, which had become our norm. There was absolutely no intimacy. I played along though, told her I needed some air, and went for a drive. During that drive, I called my best friend Sam and told him everything. He was the one who suggested I gather evidence before confronting her. Don't say anything yet, he advised. Get a paternity test first, document everything, and talk to a lawyer. The next day, I started keeping a detailed journal of our interactions, installed a hidden camera in our living room, legal in my state as long as it's a common area, and began checking her phone when she was in the shower. It took only 2 days to find the first clue. Text messages with someone saved as work, David P. Except David doesn't exist at her workplace. I know because I've met everyone at her company events. The messages were innocent enough on the surface, mostly about meeting times and work projects, but there were occasional comments that seemed odd. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, followed by heart emojis, isn't standard workplace communication. I hired a private investigator who confirmed my suspicions within days. Maria had been seeing this David for at least 7 months. He works in the building next to hers, and they've been meeting for lunch several times a week, plus occasional overnight work trips that conveniently overlapped with her actual business travel. Now I needed to figure out how to proceed with the DNA test and gather enough evidence for what was clearly heading toward divorce. The following week was the hardest of my life. I had to pretend to be an excited father-to-be while secretly building a case against my unfaithful wife. I attended her first prenatal appointment, holding her hand and smiling for the ultrasound technician while my stomach twisted into knots. The tiny blur on the screen that should have brought me joy only filled me with dread and anger. Would you like a copy of the ultrasound? The technician asked cheerfully. I nodded, knowing it would be evidence. Maria squeezed my hand, misinterpreting my tense grip as emotion. If only she knew. Getting DNA evidence proved trickier than I expected. I researched non-invasive prenatal paternity tests, NPP, that can be done as early as 8 weeks, but they required my blood sample and either a blood draw from Maria or a sample of the chorionic villi. Obviously, I couldn't ask for this without raising suspicions. My PI suggested another approach. He managed to get photos of Maria and David together, including one particularly damning image of them kissing in his car. He also tracked down David's information, full name, address, and workplace. David Peterson was divorced, 38, with no children, working as a marketing director for a rival company. The potential corporate espionage angle was an unexpected twist I filed away for later. I continued gathering digital evidence. Maria wasn't particularly tech-savvy and didn't clear her browsing history. I found hotel bookings, restaurant reservations for 2, and searches for how to tell if you're pregnant, dating back 2 months. I photographed everything, backing it up to a secure cloud account my lawyer recommended. Speaking of lawyers, I consulted with one of the best divorce attorneys in the city. Angela Ramirez had a reputation for handling high-conflict divorces with discretion and ruthless efficiency. Her consultation fee was steep, but worth every penny for the advice she provided. Document everything. Don't confront her until we have a solid strategy in place, Angela advised. In the meantime, protect your finances. Open new accounts she can't access. I've seen spouses drain joint accounts when they realize the jig is up. I followed her advice, quietly transferring half our savings to a new account and redirecting my paycheck. I also secured important documents, birth certificate, passport, financial records, and stored them at Sam's place. If things turned ugly, I needed to be prepared. The surveillance camera in the living room proved invaluable. One afternoon while I was supposedly at a work meeting, Maria invited David over. They weren't even subtle about it, making out on our couch before heading to the bedroom, our marital bed. I couldn't bring myself to watch that footage, but knowing it existed was enough. The final piece of evidence came unexpectedly. Maria asked me to grab her prescription from the pharmacy. The pharmacist, assuming I knew all about my wife's medical history, mentioned something about her recent change in birth control. She switched back to the pill last month, he said casually. Often happens when planning for pregnancy. That stopped me cold. Maria had been on an IUD for years, supposedly. Had she removed it without telling me? Was this pregnancy planned with David, but conveniently timed to pass as mine? I checked her nightstand drawer that evening while she was showering and found her birth control pills, plus a journal. The entries confirmed my worst suspicions. She and David had been planning this pregnancy for months. She'd had her IUD removed secretly almost a year ago, timed perfectly with our diminishing sex life. By week's end, I had everything I needed. Now came the hardest part, the confrontation. I decided to confront Maria on a Saturday morning. I'd arranged for Sam to be nearby in case things got heated, and I had my phone set to record the entire conversation. My lawyer advised me to remain calm and not reveal all my evidence at once, just enough to get her to confess. Maria was making breakfast when I sat down at the kitchen table and placed a manila folder in front of me. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Her smile faltered as she noticed my serious expression. "What's wrong?" "I know about David," I said simply. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried to recover. "David? From work? What about him?" I slid a photo across the table, one of them kissing in his car. "Let's not do this, Maria. I know everything." She stared at the photo, then at me, calculation evident in her eyes. I could almost see her weighing her options, trying to decide which lies might still work. "It's not what you think," she started, but I cut her off. "The baby isn't mine, is it?" I asked directly. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised I had figured that out too. Then, unexpectedly, her demeanor shifted completely. The panicked, caught-in-the-act expression disappeared, replaced by something colder and more calculated. "No, it's not," she admitted, sitting down across from me. "And honestly, I'm relieved you know. This charade has been exhausting." Her candor shocked me. I had prepared for denials, for tears, for anger, not for this calm admission. "Why?" I managed to ask. "Why would you do this?" "David and I are in love," she said simply. "Have been for almost a year. But he doesn't have the financial stability you do. We thought. Well, I thought this would be the easiest solution. You've always wanted children. I figured you'd be so excited about the baby that you wouldn't question the timing." The cold, calculating way she described her plan, to pass another man's child as mine, to use my desire for fatherhood against me, made me physically ill. "You removed your IUD without telling me," I said. "You planned this." She shrugged, dropping all pretense now. It seemed cleaner than a messy divorce. "You get the child you've always wanted. I get to be with David without losing my comfortable lifestyle. Everyone wins. Except that I'd be raising another man's child without my knowledge or consent," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "That's not a win, Maria. That's fraud." I slid the divorce papers across the table. "I've already filed. My lawyer will contact yours on Monday." Her expression finally cracked, panic setting in as she realized her plan had completely backfired. "You can't do this. What about the baby?" "That's between you and David," I said, standing up. "I've arranged to stay with Sam for a few weeks. I expect you'll want to move in with your boyfriend." The rest of the conversation devolved into her alternating between threats and pleas. She threatened to ruin my reputation, to take everything in the divorce. When that didn't work, she tried claiming she still loved me, that we could work through this. I remained firm, the recording capturing every contradictory statement. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quick. My evidence was overwhelming, and Maria's attempts to paint me as the villain fell flat when faced with the documented timeline of her affair and pregnancy scheme. The judge was particularly unimpressed by her attempt to claim spousal support after such deliberate deception. 6 months later, I'm officially divorced. Maria and David are apparently still together, expecting their child in just a few weeks. I've moved to a new city, started a new job, and am slowly rebuilding my life. The betrayal still stings, but I'm grateful I discovered the truth before raising a child under false pretenses. Some of my friends think I dodged a bullet, but it doesn't always feel that way. Some nights I still wake up wondering what kind of person could methodically plan such a deception against someone they once loved. I'm in therapy now, working through the trust issues this experience has understandably created. My therapist says it'll take time, but eventually, This will become just a chapter in my story, not the whole book. For anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts, gather evidence, and protect yourself. The truth hurts, but living a lie would have been far more damaging in the long run.